Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. I'm Lori Stohs. Well, thanks for joining us today, and this is going to be our second episode of Get Your Mind On, which is really where we feature an individual who has been watching and following Get Your Mind On and utilizing it in their life. So, of course, this individual is going to be one doing that because I'm honored to have my one and only son, Ethan Stohs, joining us this evening. And we're going to be just learning a little bit more about him and really what he's gained and what he's learned from Get Your Mind On. So thanks for joining us today, Ethan.
It's my pleasure.
You know, it is spring break, so Ethan kind of got captured and convinced that it was time for him to be part of this video. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ethan.
Well, I'm a freshman audio production major at Webster University in St. Louis, Missouri.
Great. So St. Louis, Missouri at Webster University, how did you get there?
Well, whenever I talk to my friends or family, they often have no idea what Webster is. But when I started looking for colleges, I really wanted to find something that I would be interested in and that I would want to spend my next 4 years at. So I looked at local colleges and they just weren't something that I was excited about. And so I actually got referred to Webster by an admissions counselor. And I went and checked it out, and I just loved every minute of it and knew that that's where I wanted to spend my next 4 years.
Oh, great. Well, you know, something, obviously, I went through that with him in terms of experiencing all of those, checking out different colleges. And, you know, something that we talk about here always in a lot of the work that we do is about fit. So I think that experience that you went through in terms of finding a college, and I'm sure many of you parents who have children think about we want that 4 years to be successful for our kids, and that fit is really important. So how did you know it was the right fit for you?
Well, when I went to other colleges, even though it was headed towards the major that I was interested in, I just wasn't engaged in the college and it just didn't feel right to me. I just kind of knew that it wasn't the right fit. Before I found Webster, I wasn't interested in going to college at all. I wanted to stay in high school and continue that path, but I just knew that Webster was the right place for me. Everything about it told me that it should be where I would be going.
Great. Well, you know, when you think about that, I always talk about fit as a feeling. And so as you can see, Ethan's trying to describe into words what it was like when sometimes it's really just that feeling that you know it feels right. And I remember asking him after we were at our 4th university going, okay, just rank from 1 to 4, which one's your best? And he looked at me and he says, no, I'm not interested. I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. And until we went to Webster, you could see that difference in him. You could see that smile on his face. You could see that engagement knowing this was the right place. Now, of course, it was the furthest away from home and the most expensive, right? So, you know, as a parent, you have to think about, oh my gosh. But I think that feeling and seeing that emotional attachment and look on his face was really, really important. And translating that to other types of things in our world is really about a fit for a job, a fit for a role, a fit in a company. It's the same thing as our students going through a fit for colleges. So let's talk about the second part of that fit, Ethan, is, you know, many times we're all wandering through our years of our career trying to figure out what the right thing is. Where do we want to go? What do we want to major in? And for you, I think you never know if it'll change over time because the average is seven careers per your lifetime. So how did you decide what you wanted to go into in college?
Well, I kind of looked at all my interests and kind of weighed off that. I knew I didn't want to do something that I didn't love doing because I would be spending so much time on it. I knew I didn't want to be sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day typing in data or something like that. I just knew I had to have a connection to the job. I want to kind of make an impact in whatever I do, and like if it's not something I'm interested in, then I don't know how I could better myself in the career and improve whatever I'm doing and be excited about it and give the best I can give through that job without being interested in it or having the right fit.
So when you think about how you really got to audio production, what's the most exciting part of that for you when you think about what can audio production major do? What does that look like for you?
Well, oftentimes I hear a lot about how audio majors probably don't have as many, like the career options aren't as versatile or not as probable. But I mean, everything around us pretty much includes audio, and just my particular interest is in music through audio, and so I would love to be recording film scores and just hearing the amazing product that comes from that, from basic instruments to combining as a team and producing this amazing soundtrack is just exciting for me, and just enjoying listening to that music and getting everything out of it.
That's so great. I remember when Ethan was young, we think about our talent, and sometimes we don't recognize our talents until later in life and go, wow, I've always done that. Kind of like for me, that was something around knowing that it was easy for me to connect with people and kind of do that sales influencing, when all of a sudden I went, oh wow, I was the top Girl Scout cookie salesperson when I was in grade school and junior high, and I was the top magazine salesperson in high school. So we recognize those talents early on, and with Ethan's always had a creative side of him. And I remember when he was young, I don't know if you remember this, Ethan, when he was probably, 8 or 9 years old, and kept watching this TV show over and over again, and I'm like, get to work or go outside and play. And I asked him what was it about that show that he was so interested in, and it had nothing to do with the show. He was thinking about how they were producing the film and the lights and the camera and the sound. And I went, okay, he's already seeing things different, right, than most of us who are looking at a show and watching the content of the show. So that's something I think we recognize when you can recognize talents in ourselves, our children, and others early on in our life, that you're able to really then take that and turn that into a career, and follow kind of that heart and that dream. So when you think about that, Ethan, for you, for a future career, and what does that look like for you in terms of what would you love to do after those 4 years of college?
Well, it's always kind of interesting trying to find a career after college, just because you have all these responsibilities now that you have to cover. So I guess I'm kind of open to any job, but I also want to stay within something that I'm interested. So I guess the dream job would be recording film scores for some movie company or something like that. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards now, just because I feel like that'd be interesting for me to do, and especially with my music connection, everything that I did through high school and how important music is for me. So finding a career that I can do that also along with my job would be pretty awesome.
Great. I know that's a dream job to have. So I think we'll know over the next 4 years what else he's exposed to and what that really looks like here in the future. Ethan, just a couple final things. When you think about leadership, going into a new environment, whether we're going into a new work environment as an employee or a new college, how did you kind of mentally and emotionally decide how did you connect to college when you got there? Because that was a big change, and you're not a big change guy.
It was a big change for me just because I was going to a school where I knew one person at that school, which is a big deal for me just because it's hard for me to find a lot of people. But I really just found friends to incorporate myself with, and clubs and organizations and stuff like that, and really jumped in with people and stepped into positions that I could work with people and help others out. I took on leadership positions in clubs and organizations and kind of did what I knew how to do best. And that way I was kind of still in a new environment, but I also had something that I could hold on to. And so it was kind of good for me to have a new place, but I also kept my background and stayed in leadership positions.
Mm-hmm. So I hate to say that's, of course, the mother saying, be true to yourself and know what you do best, right? The audience has known I always say, know what you do best and surround yourself with the rest. And I think for you, Ethan, that was really how we talked about how do you adapt to change, is by being comfortable with who you are and utilizing that talent in different environments, different positions. So, sometimes there's lots of generational differences. This is the first time in our world today that we have 5 different generations working together, from kids your age to individuals in their 60s. So we're finding some challenges with, as a matter of fact, today I was with a group and it's like, those young kids just don't get it. So help us understand really about how the younger generation can really work with all generations. How do you do that?
Well, that's always a thing where people say, "Oh, you're just a kid. You don't. How much do you know?" Well, in a college setting, we have a lot of adults that we work with, our professors or our sponsors of of our different organizations, and I just really worked with them and kind of collaborated with them to work on different projects and improve things. At my school, we're all about connecting with students and professors, so I really worked with them to kind of work together and not have the generations separate, and that way you kind of bridge the gap between different groups of people.
So it was really more about the ideas and the sharing versus the age. Great, great. Well, thank you for joining us today. We've covered a lot of material that you may think, okay, what is the almost 19-year-old going to teach me today? But I think we think about when we work with younger people, what their mindset is, and really how you can adapt to change, and how you can think about leadership, and all these things are things that unfortunately he's probably heard me talk about for way too long. But I love seeing that energy that you have, that you can apply to an environment and kind of help and learn with others. So I hope you've all had an opportunity to gain a few bits of interest and perspective on Ethan today, and really think about whether you have a child who is growing in their youth and thinking about their career and how to really manage that, or also just how to think about how our young minds think these days. So thank you for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.